Good afternoon. Welcome all participants to this presentation on clean tech lithium. Usual disclaimers. We're a company that is developing lithium brine projects in Chile. We listed on the AIM market in March 2022 and have been investing in the development program of drilling and technical studies in Chile over the course of the last 3 years. As most people know, Australia and the ASX is probably the leading market for natural resource stocks, particularly in the lithium sector. So we have, on the guidance of our largest shareholder, Regal Funds, based in Sydney, are following a plan to dual list on the ASX early this year. We're already engaged in the preparation of the prospectus. And we announced today the time schedule for that is that we expect to launch that dual listing in April and complete that in May. And the rationale for that is that Australia is a natural resource country. There are about 30-odd lithium companies listed, 90-odd analysts. Many of the institutions can only invest in Australia, and they're encouraged to invest in natural resource companies. So we believe that we're going to present a very attractive company to the Australian investors. They can see that we are very well priced compared to our peer group in Australia, and we expect to see a good take-up of investors in clean tech lithium. We currently have just under 100 million shares on issue. Market valuation is low at 13.7 million. This has come down over the course of the last 2 years with the lithium price, which has decreased. But we think we're bubbling along the bottom, and we've got lots of room to reverse that and get our share price back up. I mentioned Regal, a natural resource hedge fund in Australia, the largest shareholder. Board and management hold just about 8%, and a Hong Kong investment group, Athos, hold about 4%. I explained we're developing lithium brine projects in Chile. The conventional production of lithium in Chile has been through evaporation ponds. We're going to be doing it differently. We're using direct lithium extraction with re-injection of the brine back underground, so we have very low water consumption, and using renewable energy. So we aim to be producing what we call green lithium for the markets, low carbon and low water intensity. So we've declared 2.5 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent, very significant resource across the two advanced projects, Laguna Verde and Viento Andino, and we have two other exploration areas. We've published scoping studies with very robust economics on both Laguna Verde and Viento Andino. And with Laguna Verde as our flagship project, we're in the closing stages of a pre-feasibility study, which is expected to complete in April this year. Chile, unlike most other countries in the world, regards lithium as a strategic asset in Chile. Its exploitation is reserved to the state, but they do give concession agreements, as they've done with SQM and Albemarle in the Salar de Atacama, which are two production companies at the moment, and intend to give what are called special operating contracts, sales, to attract private investment into other salars in Chile. The process is that you make an application. We have done that with Laguna Verde. The government has declared our Laguna Verde project one of the 6 priority projects in Chile with the best fundamentals for development. And the aim is to get our application approved by the government to go into direct negotiation on the terms of their operating contract. And the government has confirmed that they will give that resolution by the end of March. And we're very confident that with all the work we've done, we will go into that direct negotiation process. And when people look at the lithium market, they say, well, why invest now? The lithium price is low. It's bubbling along at about $10,000 a ton compared to where it was a couple of years ago at $80,000 a ton. The market is still very, very strong growth for lithium batteries. The electrification of the vehicle fleet in the world is going very, very strongly in Asia, a bit slower, well, a lot slower in the United States and Europe. But the governments, particularly in Europe, are absolutely committed to decarbonize the economy. And we expect to see these high growth rates continue into the future. But what's happened is with the expectation of high growth rates in lithium demand, there's been an acceleration of production, particularly out of Australia and out of Africa. And that's led to the current slight oversupply and a very weak lithium price. The reality is that today, half of the world's production of lithium is operating at a loss, which is not sustainable. The expectation from most analysts is that to incentivize new projects, which the world needs, there's going to have to be an incentive price about double of where it is today, so somewhere north of $20,000 a ton of lithium carbonate. So we believe we're at the bottom. Whether the price is going to strengthen during the course of this year, as some analysts expect, or in the next year or two, but it will go up. The world needs the lithium, not just for the electrification of vehicles, but for the growing use in linking battery energy storage to renewable energy. So this is a one-way growth in demand for lithium. And we see that in the industry. I used to work in my early career for Rio Tinto. They're very thorough in deciding where it wants to invest, and they've just made a big bet on the lithium industry. About 18 months ago, they spent about $800 million buying the Rincon direct lithium extraction project in Argentina, and they just followed that up in the last weeks, of confirming the acquisition of Arcadium for $6.7 billion. And Arcadium, they've got a number of brine projects in Argentina, including the Hombre de Muerto Livent project, which has been using direct lithium extraction for 20 years. So clearly, Rio Tinto is one of the major mining companies in the world, is saying we want to be in the lithium business. There's growth in the future. Another mining company, a French company, Eramet, has made a major investment in Argentina on their Centenario plant, also using direct lithium extraction. And they've just gone into production and starting to make their first sales. So here we're seeing the first major Western projects in direct lithium extraction coming into production. Until this current project of Eramet, most of the production in brine projects has been in China. Now, our project of Laguna Verde, we're sitting east of the city of Copiapó at an elevation of 4,300 meters. It's pretty barren out there. There's very limited flora and fauna, nobody living within 100 kilometers of the project site, but there are indigenous communities on the transport corridors. We've done extensive drilling over the course of the last 3 years, and in the last year, that's been led by the international consultants, Montgomery and Associates. They've been managing the drilling programs, but also developing the hydrogeological model for the basin, which is needed to plan the extraction and the re-injection wells for the project. We've declared a 1.63 million ton lithium carbonate equivalent resource, but Montgomery believe that with additional drilling, we will be able to increase that resource. We need to do more work on pump testing to understand the hydrogeological characteristics of the basin and do the re-injection test work. let's say we had very robust economics when we did the scoping study at the beginning of 2023, which led us into the pre-feasibility study. We've engaged Worley, the leading Australian engineering consultant. They've have a major base in Santiago in Chile. They've done a lot of work for the lithium companies Albemarle and SQM, and they are leading the PFS. And we've just announced that work will be completed in April this year. So we're at the closing stages of that. The project is really split in two. We're going to be doing the direct lithium extraction. That's extracting the lithium from the brine and making a concentrated eluate, at the project site. We then ship it down to a conversion plant outside the city of Copiapó. And clearly, what we want to do is to limit the numbers of people that are working up at 4,300 meters. The city of Copiapó is a mining center, so there's a lot of engineering and technical support for any project there. As I was saying, if we look at companies like Rio Tinto, the CEO has been very vocal and saying that they believe that DLE is the solution to provide the lithium that the world needs in the future. And this is what we're doing with direct lithium extraction. This is a cutout model of the aquifer. We pump the brine from the aquifer. We pass it through columns, as you can see in the bottom bubble, containing an adsorbent, a resin, which is specifically designed to absorb lithium and reject most of the other impurities. And we're looking at getting a 95% recovery of lithium from the brine, whilst rejecting 99% of the major impurities from that brine. And then the brine minus the lithium is then re-injected back into the aquifer so that there's no water depletion from the aquifer, unlike the evaporation ponds where they pump the brine from the aquifer and then evaporate using sunlight to concentrate the lithium. And the advantage that we have using direct lithium extraction is high recovery of 95% compared to the 45% of the conventional evaporation ponds. It takes us only 1 to 2 days to recover lithium from the brine rather than the 12 to 24 months of the evaporation ponds, which need that time to evaporate. Much smaller environmental footprint, very small land area that's used, and most importantly, no water loss from the aquifer. Some people have said, look, direct lithium extraction is a new technology. How do we know it is going to work? It's been used by Livent in Argentina for 20 years, now been bought by Rio Tinto. There's about 6 or 7 projects in operation in China over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. And now we see the Eramet project being developed in Argentina. But there's a lot of technological development in this area, as people are looking at lithium in brines, not just these brines in Chile and Argentina, but looking at recovering lithium from geothermal brines in Europe and California, and recovery of lithium from oil brines in the United States as well. So more and more Western companies are coming into the picture, being able to provide both the process technology and the adsorbent. We've put a pilot plant into Chile in Copiapó to demonstrate that the technology works very, very well on our lithium brines at Laguna Verde. We truck down the lithium from the aquifer. We have a plant which can produce up to 1 ton a month of lithium carbonate equivalent in Copiapó. We adsorb the lithium onto the absorbent and then just use water to desorb the lithium into a fairly pure lithium chloride solution, concentrate it using reverse osmosis to have a pretty pure lithium chloride solution. Now, the downstream process to go from a lithium chloride solution to battery-grade lithium carbonate is well known in the industry. So rather than build our own downstream conversion plant, we're using an existing facility in United States in Chicago, which is owned by Conductive Energy. We've trucked was shipped in these large tankers, 4 large tankers of concentrated eluate to the United States, and have started processing. The initial run through the conversion plant, which has got a number of stages again with forward osmosis and ion exchange to remove impurities, and then precipitation using sodium carbonate to produce a lithium carbonate. We produce very high grade, 99.78% lithium carbonate. Battery grade is normally taken at 99.5%. So we produce a very high grade. We're going to continue work there to produce much larger quantities so that we can provide large samples of our battery grade lithium carbonate to potential off-takers and potential strategic investors into the company. Now, the advantage of brine lithium projects compared to hard rock or mica, the lepidolite projects, is the low cost. Now, clearly, if you are having a conventional hard rock, open pit or underground mine, it's energy intensive, it's high cost. And those mines in Australia and Africa, they are forced to ship their concentrate containing 5.5 or 6% lithium oxide to China for conversion. There's no conversion facilities in Africa, and the couple that are trying to start up in Australia are having difficulty. Whereas in Chile, we have an established lithium industry with SQM and Albemarle. They make battery grade material already. We'll do exactly the same. There's no hard rock mining. We make high grade lithium carbonate directly in Chile. No need to go through China with all the potential geopolitical issues that are developing at the moment, and we can supply high grade material directly into the markets. And the brine projects are low cost. The evaporation ponds obviously are going to be much cheaper. They don't need energy to concentrate. The DLE projects are also in that area. We were looking at our scoping study of about $4,000 a ton. Their production costs compared to even the current price of $10,000 a ton, which we know cannot be sustained. The projects in China, the lepidolite projects, you're looking at operating costs in the order of $15,000 a ton. And the non-integrated spodumene producers are also high cost. So certainly in terms of when lithium prices are low, the brine projects have a great advantage. Now, when we came into Chile, there's no indigenous groups within 100 kilometers of the project site, but on the transport corridors, there are a number of groups. We engaged with them right at the beginning of the process, told them what we were going to do, explained the technology we're bringing into the country, that we believed it is environmentally more benign than using the evaporation ponds. We've taken them to site. We've taken them to the pilot plant, explained what we're doing. We've engaged with the local universities. And in December 2023, we signed the first alliance agreement with the indigenous communities in the area. And that's a mutually supportive agreement. We have said that we want to use their knowledge of the flora, the fauna, of everything that happens in the high Andes. And they will be participating in the environmental baseline studies and in the EIA itself. We've said that we will volunteer when we sign the operating contract with the government, that we will have a a 1% royalty going to a trust fund for the community groups to be used for educational, health, welfare, agricultural projects. The leaders of the indigenous groups have been very vocal in front of government, the Ministry of Mines, and other parties, and saying, look, they support what Clean Tech Lithium is doing in Chile. We're bringing in a technology that has low environmental footprint. They tell government that they know every project is going to impact the environment, but from what they see, the use of DLE with re-injection has the minimum impact, and they totally support it. So that when we made our application for the operating contract, to the government, all three communities wrote a letter, to the ministry saying that they already support what Clean Tech Lithium is doing, and urging the government to award the operating contract to Clean Tech Lithium as soon as possible. We have strong ESG credentials within the company. We have a ESG committee of the board. We belong to a number of institutions such as the UN Global Compact and Sustainable Development Goals. So we want to be able to demonstrate that when we sell our material into the world markets, we will be delivering a sustainable project, low carbon intensity, low water intensity, with strong community support. And when we look at financing, of the project, the scoping study, we were looking at $400 million for Laguna Verde, similar for Viento Andino. That was 2 years ago. There's been pretty high inflation in the industry since then. We believe the project will be strongly cash generative. We'll be able to have a high degree of debt in the project. But what we aim to do is having demonstrated the technology works with our pilot plant, having our operating contract into direct negotiation with government, and having completed the PFS and demonstrated the technical and economic viability of the project, we'll be engaging with potential strategic investors. And what we're saying is, no, you want to have sustainable lithium supply. We can give you contracts for that, but how can you support the development of the construction capital needed to bring the project into production? And a typical way of doing that, as I've done projects in Chile in the past, is that the strategic investor will come into the project, 10 to 20% equity investment, put in debt from his own balance sheet, and bring in relationship commercial banks and multilaterals. Now, clearly, we're seeing the EU has got very strong import credit facilities. Countries like Germany, France, Italy, UK, Sweden, all looking at providing import credit facilities to get supply of sustainable battery materials into the EU. We've already had offers from agencies such as KfW. United States has the IRA Act, where there's the requirement that all materials going into batteries by 2026 must have 80% from within the United States or a free trade agreement country. Chile today is the only free trade agreement country that can supply battery grade lithium into the market. So between the EU and the United States, we'd expect to see strong support into the financing of our project. And the range of strategic partners has developed very rapidly over the last couple of years. 2-3 years ago, it was only Chinese companies taking equity investments upstream. More recently, we've seen the OEMs, the car manufacturers in Europe and the United States, like Stellantis, General Motors, Ford, all recognizing that to get security of supply, they're having to take equity investments and provide debt for projects. The battery manufacturers are obviously there. The commodity traders like Mitsubishi, Glencore, Trafigura are all stepping into this space. They want to source lithium and are prepared to equity fund or debt fund projects. I've talked about industry majors such as Rio Tinto, Eramet, coming into the lithium space. But there's another group of very, very powerful companies entering the space. Now, I've explained in the use of direct lithium extraction. We extract the brine from the aquifer, remove the lithium, and re-inject the brine. This is what the oil and gas companies do in the United States with the oil brines. They pump the brine, remove the oil, and re-inject back underground. So they're now saying we have the technology, the skill base, and we're going to be stepping into the lithium space. So we've got companies like Exxon, Occidental, Chevron, Equinor, all taking equity investments in lithium projects and beginning to provide their expertise as well. So where we are, we think we've come a long way in the last 3 years. The current few months we're engaged with now are absolutely critical for the company. Getting the sale into direct negotiation with the government, completion of the PFS, completion of our ASX dual listing, getting on with the EIA with the support of the indigenous communities, bringing in a strategic partner into the project to fund the next stage of going into the DFS, environmental permitting, developing the project finance, and getting into construction. So the next 2 to 3 months, I think, will be very, very formative for the company and pushing us along. So in summary, this is what we have. We're in Chile. It's a mining country, very strong technical skills in the country, very good physical and human infrastructure. We're going to be using DLE with renewable energy to produce green lithium, which will be very attractive into the world markets. We've demonstrated with our pilot plant that the technology works very, very well. We are well established with the local communities supporting us with government. And we're just about to get into strategic engagement with investors into the project. The board, highly capable. We've all had lots of experience developing large projects, especially in Chile, where I've worked on and off for over 30 years. So overall, I think we are very well placed. People say, well, okay, that all sounds great, but why now? I think why now is good. There's a lot of news flow coming in the next few months. We expect to see, once we're listed on the ASX in the next few months, a rotation from the investors in hard rock mining in Australia into one of the few brine projects in Chile that they can invest in. We think the lithium market is bubbling along the bottom. There's only one way it can go, and that's up. So we believe it's a very opportune time for investors to come into the lithium market and using clean tech lithium as their investment vehicle.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Steve. So we have received a couple of questions that have come through, and would encourage anyone who's watching to submit their questions, and I can ask them directly to Steve now. So we'll just run through these questions. That's okay, Steve?
Yeah, sure.
You touched on it at the sort of the beginning. Obviously, this morning there was an announcement about the revision of the ASX timing. Perhaps you can just expand on this a little bit more. What the cause is for the revision. What are you hoping to get out of this ASX listing?
Yeah, we were originally intending to list on the ASX at the back end of last year. On the advice of our brokers, we felt that the timing wasn't great. Australia shuts down for the summer holidays, have a very long summer holiday, and don't really come back until Australia Day on the 26th of January. And this is coming to a timing when we're due to get resolution from the government on the sale issue by the end of March. We're coming to the end of the pre-feasibility study, and we felt that it would be better going to Australia, not saying We believe we're going to get a positive resolution from the government on the sale. We are going to be having results of the PFS shortly. We will be able to go now and say we have got resolution from the government. We are in direct negotiation. We have completed the pre-feasibility study, and this is the technical and economic performance, and then make it a much stronger investment case for investors in Australia. And they can look at our project compared to where the hard rock mines are struggling economically today in Australia, and take the decision, yeah, this is a good opportune time to get into a very strong project with very strong fundamentals.
Thanks, Steve. Also mentioned in today's announcement was about the CEO role. What's the plan now for that critical position?
Yeah, I say the one of the founders of the Cleantech Lithium company was the CEO. Unfortunately, he left the company in April last year. There was some issues there, which I won't go into now. I took over as the interim CEO. We had an extensive search and had a short list of some excellent candidates to come in as the CEO designate. We made that appointment conditional on completion of the ASX listing. We made an appointment, and the person was going to come on board as the CEO at the back end of last year. Obviously, we've stretched out. We won't be completing the ASX listing until May this year. That candidate decided to withdraw for personal reasons. He's got other things on his agenda. We're going back to a few of the other candidates that we met with, that I met with in Australia, and a couple of other candidates also very, very strong. And we'll be looking to make an appointment as soon as we can. And we want to do that prior to the completion of the ASX listing.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. So the next one, the operating contract for Laguna Verde was submitted in January. What is the expected timeline on this? When do you expect to hear from the government? How confident are you?
Well, the government have got an administrative procedure which they are following. We've had discussions now with the Ministry of Mines, and they said they will be delivering a resolution by the end of March. And this is a resolution about whether the company goes into a streamlined process of direct negotiation. The government of Chile requires all contracts to go out to public tender, but it said that if a company meets certain criteria in its sale application, and that's to do with experience in the lithium industry, its balance sheet, and its license position, if it meets those criteria, it can go into a direct negotiation on the terms of the contract. And that means you're going to get the contract, but what are the final terms? Now, there's only one sale that's been awarded in the past. That's to the state company Codelco in the Salar de Maricunga. In our previous technical studies and the scoping studies, we used the commercial terms of that agreement in our analysis of the project. So we don't expect the commercial terms to differ too much from that. The government then have 55 business days to negotiate the contract, then to develop and sign the decree. And our expectation is that the sale will be awarded in the middle of July this year. So just going into that direct negotiation is going to be a big thing. And then completion in July, that's the contract for the life of the project.
Okay, brilliant. So we're looking at sort of around Q2 this year to find out what the decision is with that contract.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's it for questions we've submitted. Perhaps I can just hand over to you, Steve, for any sort of final remarks on the lithium, the outlook for lithium, and yeah, why do you remain optimistic?
Yeah, well, I want to thank everybody, to attending this presentation. My message is that the lithium market is at a low in terms of its pricing now. The outlook is leading to a very large strategic deficit in lithium in the future. The world is going to electrify, its vehicle fleet. It's doing it very rapidly in Asia. It'll be picking up in Europe and the United States as companies are producing cheaper electric vehicles, which people can afford to buy. All those motor manufacturers are moving in that direction. We believe that we've got tremendous positive news flow in the next few months, and together with the ASX listing, this really is a good time to get into clean tech lithium. Now, we've seen our share price come down with the lithium price over the course of the last two years, and we believe we've got lots of capacity for it to strongly move back up in the course of the next year. So take my advice, get in quick.